So for everyone watching, I am so excited to sit down, well, virtually sit down with Miguel Ángel, who is a film director, a scriptwriter, and he researches inclusive filmmaking. And I think everyone, I mean, he specializes in inclusive filmmaking in a way that I've never come across before. And our conversations together involving filmmaking and how to make it inclusive are conversations that I've never had with anybody else. And I learned things even in our short conversations that I think would be really valuable to just the general public, but particularly the world of filmmaking. So Miguel Ángel, I'll let you maybe just talk a bit about who you are and what you do and how you ended up in this world of filmmaking, but also inclusive filmmaking specifically.
Well, thanks, Holly, for having me on your show. And I would like to say that I'm just a regular film director. I mean, I don't do films about disability. I'm just a fiction writer. I do films about horror, fantasy. I also do fashion film. I do video art. So maybe I just wanted to present myself as, yeah, somebody who does his job. It's an artistic one, but it's nothing. It does nothing to do with inclusion. So that's something that came naturally while I was working in some project. For instance, I would like to say that I don't have any parents or any relatives that have any disability. Two things, let's say two things happened to me. 10 years ago, I decided to shoot a short film, which was like a video art. And yeah, I had like so many people. When you start, you have no budget. So my first approach was, yes, let's shoot something, just place some music, some sound effects, and that's it.
Like a silent film.
Yeah, like a silent film. So I cared a lot about the expressions, the movement of the hands. Yeah, I tried to do it very visual. So we luckily were selected in a festival in San Diego. And when I went there, yeah, something happened. While there was this screening, there was my film and many other films. But when the screening finished, I was at the theater hall and a woman approached me and told me that mine was the only film she had understood. And I was like, yeah, okay, they are very weird, artistic, okay, I understand. But no, she said, no, I really understood it because it was the only film that didn't need subtitles for a deaf person, because it was all visual. I'm a deaf person, and yeah, the others, the festival was not accessible, so I got lost in many of the films. Yours had no sound, so yeah, I understood it perfectly. And that made me think that, yeah, there was a wider audience that maybe we are not taking into account. And later, like in 2014, I shot another short film, which is called X Mile. And this film was about science fiction. And then it had one peculiarity, that it was the first film produced to be experienced with the five senses. That means that you could touch some of the clothing, of the props and the attrezzo stuff we placed in like an exhibition. We also designed some beverages and we offered them to the viewers, so they got into the theater and they just drank the beverage while they were watching the beverage on the screen. So it was like, yeah, different. And then one of the main things was that we designed a smelling experience through the film. So you were watching the film with hearing and sight, but the other three senses were also incorporated in the experience. The first time I got to smell my own movie, which was a little bit weird, in a good way, but yeah, wow, it was, yeah.
Smell my own. I think nobody has ever said that sentence. The first time I got to smell my own movie. How
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was weird in a good way. Yeah, one of the things I can tell you, aside of my story on how I got into accessibility, is that I feel so lucky to have been experiencing all these moments in my life, all these chances, and yeah, this was one of the biggest ones, because that time was when I started thinking, so okay, if I know that there's a way to portray a shot or to direct an actor that helps some viewers to come to access my film, how could I implement this in other ways? Are there any particular tools attached to making people who don't see, who don't hear, to come to the movies? And then I started researching, and I discovered what is an audio description for the blind people, what are the SDH or the subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. I started to learn and to get to know more closely sign language. And yeah, that was like the biggest moment in my career, because then I started to blend my passion for film, for art, and my job as a film writer and director with the inclusive and accessible part.
The thing that I think is really cool about you, that's quite unique, is a lot of people who are interested or who think about accessibility or inclusion are coming to it because they know somebody. Like you said, you didn't have any family members, you don't, like my younger brother was in a wheelchair, so I was already aware more so of the physical side of things, but like because of that experience, I had thought about inclusion and accessibility many times throughout my life. But for someone who doesn't have that, to like accidentally end up in this world, I think is really unique and different. And I love that you found it artistically. Like you didn't have a thought like, I'm going to make a movie. How can I make a movie that everyone can understand? Well, I need to do this. You sort of made a movie and then realized, oh, wait, there's a lot of people that would benefit from this. So
Yes.
how would you describe, how can I ask this? So a normal movie does get subtitled, and nowadays more and more movies are having, audio description added. What's different about what you do versus what is being done kind of normally already? Are there any rules around that? Are there any guidelines generally? Or because it's something I don't know anything about, and I think a lot of people also don't know exactly how that happens.
Yeah, for that case, I will like to tell you like the traditional method and how did we approach it. Let's say that accessibility and inclusion are not are talk about the same but are not the same.
Okay.
For me, just this is my opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of people who might think differently, but this is how, after years and years of research, I came as a conclusion. For me, accessibility is something that comes after the product is finished, which means if you are a filmmaker, you shoot your movie, you finish your movie, and then maybe, just maybe, in the distribution times, there comes somebody who wants to share this movie in some areas or to some collectives, and they by themselves adapt your film into make them accessible. So they write and record the audio description, they do the subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, maybe they introduce the sign language track also. But then yeah, it's a little bit difficult to make this if you're not coming from the production company or from the production team, because you don't know what to say, because you haven't been there and you don't know which decisions were made, why, which is the real artistic DNA of this particular scene, what was the subplots that were inside, the feelings, the idea that wanted to share the team with the audience. So I will, me as a filmmaker, I started to think that that was maybe not the best way to go. I know this is the only way to go for old films, for films where the director is not interested on doing this way, or the production company or the creative team, or they are in other projects and they don't remember what did they do, which is totally understandable. Also, let's think that we are not talking about accessibility in cinema industry before, due to the physical part of filmmaking, which is before we just had these 35mm rolls that were sent to the theaters, and there was a guy cutting, pasting the reels. So we couldn't add these audio description tracks or subtitles if they weren't in the film. So that was impossible to do. So now technology is so advanced that it goes in parallel with the creative evolution of accessibility, which for me is inclusion, because we are not taking these tools of audio description subtitles as something, as an add-on. We are taking it into account from the start. We start thinking on, when I'm writing a script, I'm already thinking on, okay, is this scene understandable without thinking on the hearing? And maybe with the dialogues, am I watching the film without seeing? And so I'm trying to explain to all my team also how to work in such a direction that when we get to the final stages of the production, which is when the audio description is written, everything is done, they have it in a way that is very easily presented. They waste less time on watching and rewatching the movie to finally understand every single twist, every single detail. So I've created this kind of way to work that in the end, accessibility just came through all the processes on the film. It's just understanding that accessibility needs to be planned. And if it's planned, it's not accessible. It's more than accessible, because it's inclusive, because you're thinking it from the start. Then another big part is to get involved in the production, people with disabilities, because we can't talk for them. They have their own opinion, their own knowledge, their own artistic sensibility. And so I repeat, I don't do films about disability. I just incorporate them as members of the team behind the camera. So my goal with that is just to understand and to be very close to the people or to the audience I want to talk or to communicate. No, it's like when you finish a film or when you are writing something, you send it to your friends, to whoever, to know their opinion, and then you change things, etc. So why not do the same with somebody who is later going to use as the only chance they have these tools. Sorry, I got stuck. What I tried to say is that let's not forget that a blind person only has audio description for them to be able to feel a movie, not to understand, not to make it accessible as a description, no, to feel what you feel when you see a dramatic movie, to cry, to laugh, to fall in love with the characters. Is they need the audio description, they need the subtitles. So doing accessibility and inclusion is very important, and is something that you really need to take care about. It's not let's go, because then maybe we are just it's like let's define it as a sweet isolation, because you're getting things, but in the end you can't talk about properly about what you just experienced. And that doesn't mean that it's because of their condition. No, sorry. Nowadays we can say that it's because we didn't communicate properly our project.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a big, I mean, I know in England, for example, they're doing a really good job with having even some like advertisements on TV. They have them audio described automatically. But these descriptions don't convey any of the actual feeling or the story. The thing that I love about what you say is that if you take it into account from the beginning, it enhances your whole project.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and also cool. Takes less time, and maybe you spend less money because it's incorporated in the whole process. And that's why I started to create the following projects to Smile, which are Blues Time, that is a short film. I've just finished the production of my first feature film, which is also inclusive. And I always try to send or to hire an accessibility company, and I tell them, okay, do it in an accessible way. So here's the film, you audio describe it. But then I also try to create my own accessibility tools in an inclusive way. So I always try to compare the results, to learn more about this art or this discipline. Because I'm a film director. I don't know that much about audio description, etc. But I really think that there are big differences. I don't do it to show that my work is better. It's not like that. But I just want to explain and to share that we can go in a less audio description way, and in a more audio suggestive way. I don't know how to audio involving,
like telling the story, the real story of the film, not engaging. Just describing exactly.
It's not that there's no, just engage me. Whisper things into my ear. It's whispering into an ear, which is some kind of what is audio description. It's something very intimate. So why don't we use it? Why don't we choose actors, dubbing actors, radio speakers, people who can play with their voice? I don't say that audio description needs to be dramatized, but I
remember there was an ad, and then I think we have some examples of the two types of versions that I want to look at. But you're talking about voices. I remember there was an ad, one of these ads it was a charity thing. So they had like the, children who were starving, and the audio description was like a news voice and it was like, we see a child, lonely, there is a bug on her face. It was like no emotion, that's to say in that voice, there is a bug on her face. It's like, and today, the weather, there's no difference. So,
but we can argue that's accessible.
It's accessible, but it's not inclusive. It doesn't transmit anything more than literally what is on the screen. And imagine if I think let's look at some examples, because this is something that I hadn't really considered until I met you in this way, to this extent. So Miguel Ángel sent me two different scenes and two different audio descriptions. So this is and one of them you said was like the agency, the accessibility agency, and one of them is yours. Okay, so I'll read the first one. On a street, a girl runs on the sidewalk. She has brown hair in a ponytail. She's wearing a jacket, a blue dress, and golden boots. She runs down the road looking around. She turns a corner. She runs on the sidewalk. She gets to a car park. She stops and looks around. Okay.
Yeah, that goes in the middle of the scene. You listen to the soundtrack, to the effects, everything, but what is being described that's the audio description script.
Yeah.
So, for example, when you listen to that description, maybe you just, what do you imagine, Holly, as you read it or whatever? What do you have in your mind? What do you see?
Well, the thing that I see is just a girl running. And actually, the thing I noticed reading this is like a blue dress. Maybe she's wearing a blue dress, but is that really important? Like, that's the question I have. Like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. She runs. I have no sense of like what her mood is. Like, is she running because she's having fun? I don't really know.
And how do you think the scene would be edited? Is it a fast-paced scene? Is it slow? Is it descriptive? Is it the camera close to the character? How would you think this scene would be portrayed?
I would say fast, only because it says runs a few times. So my brain goes, okay, she's running, so it's probably.
But we are going music video style, close-ups, wide.
I don't really know.
Okay. And then let's read the other one and let's see.
So this is the same scene, right?
Yeah. Exactly the same scene.
Okay, so the other one says, a girl runs down the city streets. She looks back and from side to side. The shops she passes have the shutters closed. There's no traffic or pedestrians. The girl steps on dried leaves that fly up into the air. She stops in the middle of a large intersection. They're totally different.
Yeah, and what do you feel in this one?
A lot more atmosphere. Like, I'm wondering why all the shops are closed. There's no traffic. There's no people. It makes it feel. I would imagine something a little more tense.
Mm-hmm.
She steps on dried leaves that go up. There's like a lot more atmosphere created. Your question before of the shot, I would picture like probably everyone else is seeing that, so it's probably quite close.
Mm-hmm.
And fast.
Mm-hmm. So from a simple description, you can get information of the editing of the shots. Of, for example, we are talking about the girl, her back, the feet, the stores, the wide crossing. So you're imagining different takes, right? From, you could see, okay, I need this wide shot for the girl to see where she's running through this crossing. You also can see the blinds closed, so that's just a take of that. The feet, the girl, and there's no description of the girl, for example.
No, but I don't reading it, I don't miss that. Like that this gives me a lot more information. So here's a question then, if I can ask you. I assume the second one is the better one. So if you were considering this from the beginning, would you have thought about this from the beginning so that you could include the sounds of these things as well? Is that the idea, that like maybe if you know that they're going to hear the shops have the shutters closed, could you edit into the scene the sound of the shutters closing to add to that? Or so how would you do this from the beginning, I suppose, is my question.
Okay, let's if you want, let's play the scene and then I will tell you.
Okay.
Okay, we are back. So as you just noticed, the scene doesn't have the need to be that wider on description. I mean, it's a girl running through a street. So you have time to work on how the scene was designed. Answering to your previous question, I didn't know what I was going to get from this girl running, because we were shooting at dawn and we needed just this tiny light. So we had not that much time. We had to go and shoot it in 2 days. So everything was a little bit improvised. I knew many of the takes, but yeah, I didn't know it. It's like a regular way of shooting. You go with your schemes and then they get broken and you throw them and you start from there. But the thing is that what I wanted to explain on the scene is clear. She's a girl, she's running, something is behind her, something we don't know what it is. The stores are closed, everything is like, but we understand it because it's very early in the morning, no? And also I had the time to show the leaves, which tells us that maybe this scene is happening in autumn. Yeah. So I got into these little details, which I was interested in it because I wanted to go in a more fairy tale style.
Can we look at, you sent another scene. Can we look at that one?
Okay, that one, yeah, a little bit weirder. It's like a dream sequence, no, or something like that. So everything can be audio described, but yeah, let's see how does that come to accessible and inclusive.
Because this one, I have to say, I read the first one and I was like completely confused. Okay, anyway, so the first one is images are interspersed of Fa with a man. Fa is the character, right?
Yes.
He gives her the wristwatch. It's 10 to 8. He caresses Fa's chin. She smiles. A man wears a hospital ID bracelet. Someone gives him an injection. Fa covers her mouth. Emergency lights flash around her. The image fades to black. Okay. So
yeah. I think the caress word in Spanish, he just says acaricia, so maybe just places his hand on the chin. But yeah, for example, here, how many characters would there be?
I would say, so Fa and a man, he gives her the watch. It's 10 to 8. He touches her chin. She smiles. A man wears a hospital ID bracelet. Someone gives him an injection. She covers her mouth. So I think, I don't know, but at least 4.
Okay. And for example, would you imagine where are we? Or the place where is happening, the scene?
I mean, I suppose a hospital, if there's a hospital bracelet and an injection.
And the first sentence, what does it suggest to you?
That there's like a montage of pictures with Fa and a man.
Yeah, and what?
But I don't know which man. It sounds a bit weird.
Yeah, because we can. Let's remember that these scenes are complete. I mean, they have a whole sense. It's not that we just took a little bit and that's it.
No, it's like a full scene of the movie.
Okay. Yes, and yeah, and also, for example, the young. It might be that this Fa is being abused or something, right? Because it's pretty wild, the scene.
And I don't know who a man wears a hospital bracelet. Who's he? I don't know.
Okay. So let's read the other one.
So the other one, same scene.
Yes.
Against a white background, an old man gives the pocket watch to Fa. The old man strokes the girl's chin, making her smile. The old man is wearing a hospital bracelet. So it's the same guy. Yes. Fa becomes tense. Someone brings an IV bag to the grandfather. The needle goes into the old man's veins. the white background gets dark and Fa covers her mouth. So there's two people and someone brings the IV, but maybe we don't see them. So maybe that's why it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there are
Now I
three
know it's an
characters.
IV. So now I imagine, okay, it's an IV that they're injecting. It's not just someone giving an injection.
No.
Like they're drugging someone. So now I think, so it's just the old man, maybe a grandfather and Fa, and they're in the hospital and she's tense and nervous because her grandfather is having some medical treatment. That's what I understand now from this one.
So the thing is that, yeah, also this scene has no audio, so no dialogues. So you need to understand it with those words. Though that description is the only thing that is placed on the film. If you want, we can play it.
There's something I noticed after watching it, that in the first audio description it says emergency lights flash all around her, and that isn't in the second one.
Yeah, because I think that a blind person is not deaf, so he's listening or she's listening the sound of the sirens. So we just need to tell that these sirens are shining on her because it's dark and the only light there is are the ambulance lights. So that's heavy in the sense that you understand, even though you haven't seen the film, but you know in these 20 seconds, many things. The Fa cares about the old man. The old man might be her grandfather. He's at the hospital. Maybe he's sick. She feels pain. She's nostalgic. So there are so many different things that you can get in just 20 seconds by choosing the right words that, maybe we need to involve these accessibility teams inside of what we need to put into just 20 minutes. Imagine a full feature film or a piece of art or a sculpture or a painting. It's very difficult to do it after everything is done and without the contact of the people who have created it.
You know, the thing of like there's making the movie and there's making it inclusive. I can imagine sometimes you have an idea for a scene visually and then you realize, actually if we just show this thing, then it becomes inclusive, and if we're doing that, we can put this sound and that helps the movie. That it mixes together two separate things, can mix and blend, as opposed to it being like, we're going to make a movie, finished, now let's make it accessible, different movie. You know, I think it's really, reading these scenes, I can't imagine if that is all I'm hearing, and I don't even know how many characters are in the scene. But it's accurate. A man wears a hospital bracelet. Okay. Yes.
A child has a bag on his head.
That's exactly what's there, but who is he? You know.
Yeah, that's why I try to move forward on researching more and more and getting also to share my thoughts and my experience to everybody that want to hear. No, so I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity because this is also my first interview about accessibility and inclusion in English. And for me it's difficult because it's not my mother language, and so I hope that it was enriching or
so beneficial. It's so because now I'm genuinely interested. Like, I want to write these. Now I'm thinking like, how can I write these descriptions? Because I think it's really fun. It's fun to imagine what do I need to know? How can I create the words of this image that are effective if you are not seeing the image? And
Yeah.
also, as a voice artist, how would I record this? For sure, I wouldn't say, fa becomes tense. Someone brings an IV back. Like, I mean, that's not, that isn't how I would do it. And that's how I hear it a lot. So I
Yeah.
think there's a whole sector of filmmaking here that hasn't been perceived as a part of filmmaking, that's been perceived as this is accessibility and it's not filmmaking, that now, thanks to you, in my mind, they're the same thing. And I think more people need to find out about this.
Yeah, I'm working also in trying to change laws and trying to write political texts for our governments to understand that this needs to move forward. We have been in the Senate, at the Spanish Senate. We have changed some laws here in my place in Valencia. And also imagine this is so wide because we are not just the creators, we are not just the government, we are not just the people with disabilities and their associations, and it's also film, DVDs, film, Netflix, which are coming forward with these projects and these accessibility tools. But also, if you don't have the methodology to implement it in a wider way, it's difficult. For example, what we are doing is also crafting this particular methodology that not only helps my productions, but also can be exported to any production. We have these reports or these layouts.
So you've created like a guide,
yes,
essentially, right, on like how we can do this, and that I think should be implemented wherever you are watching this. I hope one day you can have this guide to implement, because I just think it's really interesting. It's really, really fascinating to me that this is not a bigger deal.
Thank you.
Where can we find you? Do you have a website or anything that people can look up? And is it in English?
Yeah, one of the things, if you just write my name in Google, yeah, my name is difficult, but we will have it on screen. There you can find my films. I also do a lot of documentaries about the behind the scenes with interviews to all my crew members about accessibility. We have also accessible trailers, accessible films, accessible songs. Many. We're just opening it very wide, and I decided to sum up all the content we've created into a website, which is micineinclusivo.com. And yeah, the site is in Spanish because I'm specialized in accessibility in Spanish, but also there's the blog part. And in the blogging part, you can find a section which is English articles, and you can find a lot of different articles about accessibility. Also, you can find many of the videos are translated, are subtitled into English. So there's a lot of content there, even though the main site is in Spanish. But I invite you to check it out. And if you need anything, you want to share something, contact us. And just because, I know more in Spanish, but the methodology is universal. It's global. I don't care the production, the language. It's just something that, you have to live, because in the end, right now, inclusion is not just a part of my job, it's a part of my life. And this is also a life experience. This has been a life experience. And so that's why I feel it as I do. No, it's not something which I do 8 hours per day. I go to sleep, I forget about it, etc. It's just, I try to really go for it in many ways of my life.
Maybe something everyone can do is to check out current audio descriptions. There are a lot of things available, listen to them, you know, get curious about what they're like now and how we can maybe make them better in the future.
As a final thought, I know many directors whose work has been accessible and they didn't experience it. They don't care.
Yeah. So start caring.
I would. I am.
I would. Yeah. Start caring, do it intentionally. And then cinema will progress and change and move forward, and your films will be unique and different and inclusive.
Totally.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Holly.